Good morning, everybody. I'm John Riley. I'm recording this film today for NCTV and for Massachusetts Center for the Book. I'm meeting this morning with Martha Cohen, the library director of the Belding Memorial Library here in Ashfield. It's a beautiful day, and Martha has taken time with the library closed to meet with us, so we're going to get a nice, quiet tour of the whole place. Martha, can you tell us just a little bit about the history of the library, when it was built?
Sure. We just celebrated our 100th anniversary last year. It was built in 1913, but dedicated in 1914. So it took about a year to build. And it was given to the town by Milo Belding, who actually was born here, but didn't spend a lot of his life here. His parents lived there their whole lives. And he gave the library to the town once he'd become a well-established and wealthy silk manufacturer. And he gave the library to the town and had it built in honor of his parents. And there are plaques to both his parents in the front hallway.
We'll go and see those before we stop. Where did he have his silk mill?
Well, he had some silk mills locally. There was a silk mill in Florence, and he had some silk manufacturing in the valley, but the bulk of it was in Michigan. Oh, wow. And it was in a place that now also is called Belding, Michigan. And it was Alva Belding, his brother, who lived primarily in Michigan, and there is also a library called the Alva Belding Library in Belding, Michigan. Your
sister library.
Yes.
I found this to be true in a lot of the libraries that I've visited so far, and towns, is that people have left, made their fortunes, and then come back to give back to the town.
Yeah, that's
Cummington, I saw some of the same things there. Obviously, Conway. People, came from the small little farming town, made their fortunes, and wanted to come back and give back to their small town.
It's good that they don't forget where they came from.
That's really great. Now, how did you become interested in being a librarian? How long have you been a librarian? When did you start? What got you started?
I have been a librarian for almost 30 years now. Okay. And I was not my first try at a career, but something that I came to realize might be enjoyable. When I was actually, after I had finished college with a degree in sociology, not knowing quite what to do with the degree in sociology since I didn't want to teach, and I have worked for a Ralph Nader organization, a Connecticut Citizen Action Group in Connecticut, working on, back then even, conservation and solar issues. But that was kind of a 60-hour-a-week job, and I was looking for something that was a little more sustainable. And I actually had thought about going to library school when I moved back to Boston. And Simmons Library School had a great reputation, but it took me a while to decide to go to library school. I actually have an associate's degree in computer technology.
Okay, and that's something you really need nowadays in the library. My God.
Although I have to say, by now everything I learned is somewhat outdated. In any case, that was I got an internship at Simmons in their media lab. And decided that I loved being a librarian.
Now, you grew up here and went to school
I did.
Here.
I grew up in Northampton.
Okay.
And then I went to school in Hartford, Connecticut, and then I went to Simmons in Boston for my library degree.
And you spent a number of years in Seattle. Was that your first library job?
No, actually, my first library job was as a reference librarian at the Mount Holyoke College for probably a year and a half. And then I had one of my dream jobs, which was to work for the Mass Audubon Societies. Oh, yeah. And they had a small library, and it was actually in Lincoln, right outside, across the street from Drumlin Farm at their headquarters. And I was their librarian for about 4.5 years until Proposition 2.5 cut off a lot of money to the organization, and they had to cut back a lot of positions. In which case, at that point in time, I moved to Seattle to try another way across the country. And it's beautiful out there. Yeah. And I worked for 20 years.
Did you work in the public library?
I did. Not in Seattle Public, but I worked for the King County Library System in 3 different libraries as a young adult, a teen, and reference librarian.
Well, we're meeting in the children's room here at the library, and man, if I was a kid, I would love coming here. This looks like paradise. I mean, you got everything going on in here.
It is. The windows are beautiful. Do you know the story about the building of this part of the library?
No, I do see that it is a new addition to your classic granite building over there.
That's right. It's about 22, 23 years old.
Okay.
And it came to be built because a copy, one of the few copies of the Emancipation Proclamation signed by Abraham Lincoln, was found in the basement of the library. And nobody.
Where was it? In
It
the
was
basement? Just
well,
in the
I'm not
file?
sure. I wasn't here in Ashfield. It was in the early, right around 1991.
Who found it?
And I don't even know who. I believe the library trustees found it, and it was identified as belonging to the library, but nobody, even with research, could find out exactly who gave it to the library. There have been some certain guesses that perhaps Charles Eliot Norton, who was, used to spend all of his summers here and was a beloved member of the summer Ashfield community, might have given it to the library. And the other person with a status and money who might have had it was George William Curtis, who also spent summers here. And we will see that we have busts of both of these esteemed men in the front of the library.
On the camera.
But that was the idea, that somebody had who had position and money had given it to the library as a gift.
Did you put it up for auction? Or?
Well, yes, apparently, and this is the more difficult side of this whole story, apparently it caused a split in town, a rather deep split between those who wanted to keep it here and for the children's education and for, as a showpiece, and people who wanted to auction it off to be able to build an addition to the library. And that is what happened, that the trustees did vote to sell it, and that's why we have this beautiful children's room and the meeting room below it, and certain renovations to the hallway and the lift, a handicapped lift for.
Where did it end up? Where is it?
It was auctioned off by, so I'm not sure who bought it.
Probably
it was
in a museum somewhere.
Yes, I think so. It was sold for $105,000, and 93 or 94,000 built this edition. But
that's a great story.
It is, and it has taken some 15, 20 years to completely heal that rift in town. When I came, just the beginning of 2014, it was one of the anniversaries of the Emancipation Proclamation as well. And, lots of people filled me in on the story of what had happened, and indicated that there were people in town that were just now coming back to visit the library and be able to heal. And last summer, during our centennial, one of the most wonderful pieces of that healing happened, where a group of folks in town who were celebrating the Emancipation Proclamation, and also the whole connection of the Underground Railroad to this area, and slavery, and looking at racial issues in a sort of more meaningful way, they actually gave the library, in a ceremony during our centennial, a copy of the Emancipation Proclamation, which we now have hanging in the other room, indicating that it wasn't the piece of paper itself, but the what was behind the words that could be a teaching tool, and that it was and to me that was a healing gesture.
And that
between
Ashfield
the town
had
and the
been
library.
part of the Underground Railroad, probably,
That's right.
and people here had supported that idea all the way.
Yeah.
That's just great. Now, the library is right here in the center of town. How does it fit into the town? How does it fit into the community?
Well, I think it's a wonderful location because it really is. It means that it can be part of the community without much outreach.
You have a community room
so that
for people to
we
use.
do. We have a community room that we encourage people to use, and that anybody who wants to, for educational or civic or cultural purposes use that room, and we do not charge for that. So we want people to use the library as part of all kinds of community activities. The other thing that I should point out, I know we're going to talk about the Ashfield Film Festival later, but within many of the films that are not specifically about the library, when they scan through the town, the library doors in front are prominent in those, and I'm
It's
always
just a
happy
beautiful,
to see it.
it's
Yeah.
such a beautiful building, and I was looking on your website, and you do have a very nice website, and with a good amount of history about the library, that it was built by Italian stonemasons, and it looks like it might be in Italy somewhere. It's got this classical look to it, that it could be a villa somewhere.
It does.
In Tuscany or something. Now, what are some of the big draws here at your libraries? I know most public libraries, genealogy, local history are huge. Do you have that as a?
We do. We have some local
mission?
history.
Yeah.
We do absolutely have that as a mission. And, you know, part of that's been helped by the fact that this past year, the Ashfield History Project has put out the third volume.
I was really impressed by these. You have 3 volumes so far on the history of Ashfield. You got a lot to say, and there's a lot going on here. There's so much going on. I didn't really realize it until I started looking through your book. I mean, theater, film,
Yes.
literature, history, just so much.
It's really quite a cultural community.
It is an amazing
Yes,
town.
very well.
Yeah.
And you can
And
see.
we can recommend this. It's out now. It's $35. It's $40. It's $40. It can be purchased.
Here at the library.
At the library.
That's right. It's a great gift. And the wonderful thing about this third volume, as compared to you can see that the increase in technology has affected, you know, publishing in the library, and that this was put together, I believe, by a wonderful
Hans
publisher.
Teensma.
Yes, in Agawam, I believe. And it has all kinds of pictures
It
that
is.
weren't possible with these.
It's a beautiful
books.
book. Even if you don't buy it, you might want to get it on interlibrary loan.
Yeah.
To see these books, you know, not too many towns have this extensive of a printed history.
That's for
Now, you
sure.
also pulled this for me. I thought that this was kind of interesting. Can you tell me a little bit about Eva Tanguay and her relationship to the library?
Apparently, Eva Tanguay, who was a silent film star, she was born in Quebec and then has connections to many parts of the world. And who knew that she had a connection to Ashfield? She actually owned the house that was part of the property that this library is now built on. And apparently, she sold the house in 1910 or 11 to Milo Belding. And then Milo Belding demolished it and had the library built. But she sold it, and this is the quote from the history that I find most intriguing, sold it in consideration of $1 and other good and valuable considerations paid by Milo Belding of New York City.
So she was interested in it becoming a library too, I guess. You know,
Well,
she sold it for $1.
Yes, one hopes that was,
Yeah.
she realized it was going to perhaps a good cause, and
Yeah.
they're not going
Well,
to.
Cecil B. DeMille
something.
was born here
In
too.
fact,
You are a
yes.
movie capital here.
We are. Yes, Cecil B. DeMille was born right across the street in the Ashfield housing, well, what's now a large Ashfield apartment building. And there's a little plaque, and it was the only time he ever spent in Ashfield was when he was born.
Okay.
But he's been remembered
Yes.
and celebrated.
That's great. Now, we're going to look at some of your DVDs from the Ashfield Film Festival that I understand were slightly inspired by Cecil B. DeMille
Yes.
in a backhand way, but through Hollywood and some other connections. Now, to just kind of wrap up what we're talking about, the actual function of the library, tell me about some of the special things that you do here. I know you do storytelling. What else do you offer here in the library?
Well, we do offer story times on Saturday mornings because for young children
Who reads?
and families
Who does
with
the
young
reading?
children. My staff and myself and volunteers from the community.
I'll have to come sometime when you're reading
Yes,
this.
well,
Bring my grandson.
yeah, that's
Elliot
right.
Elliot
That's
would like
perfect.
to come.
2 years old, and that's just about our average age. They're
Oh,
really
really?
young
Okay.
kids, very young story time. And it also becomes, because it's such a beautiful space, when the family members, sometimes it's parents, sometimes it's grandparents, come with their kids, they end up chatting with each other after the stories, and it becomes a little community building space.
That's really
and
fantastic.
That's what we want the library to be. You'll see that and we try to encourage all kinds of programming that promotes community. We actually encourage, because we're only a small staff of one librarian and two dedicated assistants, we encourage community members to bring us programs. So we have people come. We encourage anyone who's written a book to come, and the library will help them advertise it and do a reading or a book signing. In fact, we have Ken Condon, who's a resident in town, who's a motorcycle expert, and I didn't realize that. He also uses our computers to download books on his computer, and that's how I'd met him. He wrote a book on how to ride motorcycles safely, and came and asked if he could do a reading, and we set one up. And then we get a whole lot of people that had never been in the library before. All these motorcyclists, wearing their motorcycle jackets, going in.
Very popular.
It was great.
There's a lot of doctors and lawyers riding motorcycles too.
Yeah,
so.
we also, thanks to our friends of the library, were able to sponsor last year a memoir writing workshop for seniors, to try to be able to consolidate and get on paper their memories, whether they're of Ashfield or of other parts of their lives. And that was very successful, and some of those folks are still writing and kind of got inspired to
I think I
to
see a
write,
volume
so.
4 coming on the history of Ashfield. Now, you really count a lot on volunteers. I've seen your volunteers at work. I come every year to your book sale during the fall festival. And this year it was really a wild festival. I think it was the biggest one I think I've ever seen. I saw plates from Tennessee, Wyoming. I think you guys are on a circuit of some kind of like world's most famous fall festival towns or something, because it was insane.
The word seems to have definitely gotten out, because when I got here, people definitely said, reserve that weekend. There are tons of people in town, so save yourself a parking space.
Well, it's like a movie lot. You have the perfect setting. It's like a movie setting for the festival, with the architecture and the park and the library and everything. It's like,
and it's all set up close together on one road. And I also know that people, a lot of young folks, like a small town like this, they grow up here and then they leave and go other places and to find work or to follow their dreams. But I notice on that weekend, it also seems to be a lot of people come back to Ashfield. It's a homecoming. It's in the fall. It's beautiful. And many of the people that come through the library say, oh, I haven't been here for years, and I remember when this was that, and I remember the children's area was here, and oh, look at these beautiful windows. I haven't seen the new edition. And
that is a really cool angle. Yeah. I understand that the book sale goes a long way towards funding some special events or things that you do here too.
It is the book sale is the friends of the library run the book sale for us, and we're incredibly grateful to them for it. It's the major fundraiser. In fact, the two major fundraisers of the year for the friends are during the fall festival. One is that book sale, and then one is a raffle that the friends run down at the town hall, and that supports the library all year round. It supports extra collections. It supports computer work that we need done. It supports and is going to in the future support gaining more technology for the library. They have also supported a lot of programming.
Well, the secret is out. The best book sale in the valley, in Western Mass, is at the Belding Library, and I can speak to that because I have a bookstore, and I am always number one in line. And you saved me 1 year with my box. I got to keep my place. So I love that book sale more
Columbus Day weekend.
More than any book sale. That's the best. Now, another thing that you fund through that is free museum passes, which I don't know if everybody knows. I take advantage of them at the Forbes and at the Lilly Library. And when I tell people about it, they go, really? You can go to all these libraries for free? That's what libraries offer. It's an added
Yes,
bonus.
it's a
Yeah.
wonderful program that a lot of people don't know about. And
Yeah.
each library has passes that will be of interest to that particular
Yeah.
area. So so I encourage people to check out their library and find out what passes they have. We do also list them on our website,
Yeah.
but our most popular passes here are to the Clark Art
Yes,
Museum,
of course.
Clark Art
Yeah.
Institute, Mass MoCA, which is also up in North Adams. And then the Eric Carle Museum down in the valley is
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
also popular. We have passes in Old Deerfield.
Okay.
Deerfield Historical Museum's very generous. These museum passes our friends fund most of them for us, ones that cost money. A couple of them are given to us free. And they are very generous once you get to the
I
museum.
think it's just a great service.
Yeah, we also have one from Smith College, and then every year people probably don't realize that the Massachusetts Department of Parks and Conservation gives libraries 2 passes free, so that if you can't fund your own pass to go to the different parks, you can come and borrow it from the library. So you could borrow a pass. We have people borrow the pass and then go to the DAR in Goshen, for instance, and then they don't have to pay the parking fee.
That's just a great service. On the other extreme of that, you also offer free ebooks, don't you?
We do.
You can download them from your
Yes.
home computer and things. That's a new thing. I don't do that, but it sounds interesting.
We have actually we are part of an automated network, CW Mars.
Right.
It covers the central and west. In fact, it means central and western Massachusetts automated resource sharing.
Okay.
And what that means is libraries like ours that can't afford to purchase all of those, it's ebooks and e-audio, books on books that you can listen to on any of your little devices. You can download them free from any of the CW Mars libraries, including ours, and our staff and any staff at the libraries can show somebody how to do that. We're a little bit hampered here right now, but that will change because we actually we're not completely wired yet in town, and we don't have internet access everywhere. But we will, and people will be able to do this from their homes as well.
Now, my understanding is that ebooks are very problematic in libraries, especially public libraries. The cost, the number of times you can check them out. Do they cause you a problem, or do they make it easier to lend books out?
Well, no, it's part of the fact that we're getting the ebooks from publishing companies, and
Right.
publishing companies are profit companies, and they want to make a profit. If they feel that if they allowed libraries to have ebooks and let anybody use them as much as they wanted to, that this would cut into their sales for
Yeah.
both ebooks and regular books. And libraries do have a problem with that. I mean, when we have a copy of a book, once we purchase it, we can lend it as many times and as long as it will last.
Yeah.
With ebooks, the libraries and publishers have some friction and constant discussion and back and forth, I would say, go into argument as well, because libraries want to be able, it's our mission to make them accessible as much as possible and to have them free. We're free public libraries. And so, but then we run into publishers who put limits on the number of ebooks and also how ebooks can be downloaded. So it's a lot easier to go to any publisher and buy a ebook than it is for libraries to download. There are procedures put in place that we have to educate people on how to get through in order to get the ebooks. That said, once people are practice and have downloaded a couple of ebooks or a couple of audio books, people listen to them, when they're doing all kinds of things, then people really like them. And so it's a learning curve. There's a learning curve to using them. And we as librarians and library staff want to help people get through that learning curve to be able to use them.
I'm glad that that's working out for you. I know that as a private citizen, following the cost of books, ebooks have gone up quite a bit in price. And I hear this because I have a bookstore. I hear this quite a bit, that it's cheaper to buy a print, let's say a secondhand copy of a book, at Gabriel Books, than to buy the ebook. Ebooks used to be 99 cents. Now they're $12.99, $14.99, and higher which is making the print book look, better
Better,
again. Plus,
right.
it's just a better reading experience. But I'm just really curious, and I'm trying to follow up myself as to where this is going to go. I don't like reading ebooks. I like the ease of getting them. I think it's great. But I always have preferred a print copy. But we'll see how it goes. I mean, the younger generation is going to determine what happens.
Yeah, that's true, and that they actually, so far, younger generation, the verdict is still out. People still seem to like books as well.
Like a children's
I don't-
book. I mean, this big illustrated
Yes,
book. You can't do that on a
exactly.
tablet.
And I try and look at it not as a either or situation. It's a supplemental piece, so that it's just so you read. There's no reason that reading any ebook should threaten anyone's reading experiences. I think
It has its place,
right? That's right. And for me, there are three places that ebooks are really great, and I encourage people to use them. One is when you travel. You can take, and I am one who used to struggle to figure out what 5 books I was going to take with me on
Sound like a
vacation.
librarian.
Right, and you can take 20 books with you on vacation. You can also take some books, and then, depending on where you're going, download other books when you're traveling.
You're
So
absolutely
it's
right.
a lot easier to take when you travel. The other thing that I encourage people, especially older people, is that it gets really unwieldy. A lot of people like to read in bed before they go to sleep. And sometimes the books, big books, get unwieldy, and having an e-reader to just turn the pages very easily
And
when you're
adjust the
going to
font
sleep.
size
And you
even,
can adjust the font size, you can adjust the lighting on your tablet. And sometimes that can actually be a easier before bed
Like
reading
War and
experience.
Peace. You don't want to take War and Peace to bed and get it crushed by
Exactly.
it. Yeah.
And they are writing, there are long, huge fantasy books people like to read. So I encourage people to just try it out for those particular situations.
I saw somebody reading an ebook recently, and they had the print was white and the back was black. And I said, "What's going on with this?" She says, "Well, I like to read at night in bed, and it's easier to read with white print and a black background." I go, "Okay, that's something." I
So
learned.
and the nice thing is with an e-reader or tablet, you can fool around with that and find out what works for you.
Couple big questions for you. What is the future of libraries? Where do you see libraries going? It sounds like you're keeping up with it. You are the future. You aren't, looking back. You're looking at the future and moving.
Absolutely.
Into it. Yeah.
And again, I see a combination of digital tools and traditional library services and programming. I mean, I think that there's a lot that digital tools can do. For instance, we have limited space here. Whereas on the computer, there are a couple, you were talking about ebooks, there are actually a couple of companies who have recognized that having unlimited access to books can actually benefit them. And so that I would love to see to be able to raise the money
Kind of
to
a Netflix
subscribe.
kind of
Yes,
idea.
exactly.
Yeah.
To the kind of there's one for children's audiobooks where we can access unlimited
Yeah.
have
Nice,
unlimited
nice,
access
very
to
nice.
children's audiobooks so that and we don't have the shelving to keep all those books, but if everyone could access an audiobook anytime they
Spotify and all
wanted
of
to,
those things,
that's
yeah.
right.
Kindle.
So those kind of things can really help nourish and expand people's reading experiences.
I think
and that's what we want.
authors are
Yeah.
probably pretty happy with that too, because authors want to be read.
That's
They
right.
want to get paid.
That's right. That's right.
But I think equal with that is I want to reach people. I don't want my book to be unavailable.
That's
so
right.
that people can get to it.
That's right. Now, the other piece is that we're looking toward in the future, and I think many libraries have already gone in this direction, is to digitize their historical holdings.
Okay.
And that's something there are a couple of very accessible free websites people can go to, one being Digital Library of America,
Right.
and access these amazing pieces of history. Memoirs and old diaries and primary sources that look like an actual book. They have actually just digitized the book. So you can even get a little bit of a sense of the texture of the material itself, as well as, of course, the valuable content.
I'm
of it.
really happy to hear that you're the first librarian I've talked to that has mentioned the Digital Library of America, and that is supposedly going to be the future for public libraries of this shared resource nationwide. And is it part of the Library of Congress, or is it separate? It's a whole separate thing?
I'm not exactly sure on that.
Because the Library of Congress has
But
similar
Library of Congress,
things.
exactly. It's
You can go
our
in
national
and
depository.
get all of these documents.
And it doesn't mean getting rid of the materials. We still have the materials
Sure.
here, but it protects the materials, and it also allows access to so many people that couldn't get here to Ashfield to see the really specific things that we have in our historical collection that very few other people have.
Great. Well, thanks a lot for your time today, Martha. I really encourage everybody that's watching this to go to the Belding Memorial Library website to find out more about the library, and when you're here in town to visit. And thanks again.
You're welcome. Thank
We're
you.
going to take a tour of the library too. We're going to walk around and see some of the art and some of the movies and things that are available here. Martha, you were talking earlier that one of the special things you have here is that you can loan out some of this beautiful art that you have on the walls. How does that work, and who do you have?
We do. We have a small collection of Ashfield artists. The collection was given to or was started in honor of the father of one of our residents. And Diana Bennett helped set up the collection. And the collection is 15 or so, mostly paintings, but artworks by Ashfield artists. And anyone in Ashfield or the local area can come and pick up one of these paintings. These are 3 by Mimi Piropan. And we have maybe 9 or so artists that have created our 15 pieces, and you could borrow them for 8 weeks at a time. Each one has a nice wooden carrying case that protects it, and you pick it up here in Ashfield, take it, hang it in your home, and then bring it back in up to 8 weeks.
I think that's really great that you have it so locally focused.
Yes.
That really is a great service. When you first told me about this, I pictured reproductions and things, but this is the real deal. These are real.
Yes, it's real
watercolors.
artwork,
Yeah,
it's the
real
originals, and we have them around the library when they're not borrowed, so that people can actually, it's our little local art exhibit, that's our permanent collection.
Great. Let's take a walk around the library and see some of the other things that you have. Another thing that we were talking about earlier is the Ashfield Film Festival. You guys are the archive for this. What have you got there in your hands?
Well, the Ashfield Film Festival was started in 2007. And it's a short film festival. The films all have to be 5 minutes or less, and they don't have to be done by Ashfield folks. And this is something that Harry and Tamsin,
to NCTV watchers.
That's right. But they do have to touch on something related to Ashfield. Okay. And every year they encourage folks to come up and put films into the collection. So this is the very first one, and these are the folks who started it, and it is, like you mentioned, dedicated to Cecil B. DeMille, who was, again, born in Ashfield, and Baby Cecil is this. There's a lot of humor and creativity and out-of-the-box thinking that goes into this film festival. And now it draws, when it happens in September every year, they show the films, they have popcorn, and then they vote. It's a people's audience vote on best for different kinds of film awards, and the awards are made by Ashfield artists.
No, I understand. You starred in a film recently that was made by some local kids. You were abducted by aliens.
That's right.
How much fun was that?
My little scream. It was a lot of fun, and you find people with cameras walking around Ashfield during the year, especially during the summer, making films to be part of the festival.
And what were you saying?
Oh, so you see people walking around in the summer and with cameras all over town saying, and the library is in a lot of people have come in and say, oh, can I film this and that? Usually they don't want me in it, so it was kind of fun to be in that aliens film, but they want the library as a piece of the community. As I say, a lot of times people use the library steps, but this was this year's, and we keep here at the library, we're probably the only library with a complete collection of all of the years of the Film Fest. So the Film Fest directors generously donate 2 or 3 copies of the Film Fest shorts, And they're one of our popular collections. People take them out and watch them, and this is this year's just.
Are any of these on YouTube, or are they online anywhere?
Well, I believe they are on YouTube because you found the aliens in the library.
That
so
might
I'm
have been made
not-
by some NCTV related people.
Okay.
That might be why we have it.
Yeah, I
there.
don't think the whole festival is
Yeah.
on YouTube. I think that the whole festival, the only place that you can find it is on the the DVD that's developed by the. You can
Okay.
buy it here in town at Elmer's, or you
Can
can
you do
borrow it from the
interlibrary
library.
loan to look at these?
You
No.
know, I think we could probably arrange that if folks, yes.
All right,
did
so
that.
that's something to note, all you NCTV viewers, that if you want to see these short films, get some inspiration for your 7-minute film fest that we do, you might want to come up here and watch these. Okay, well, thanks a lot,
That's
Martha.
right. You're
Let's see your room with your founders.
Okay.
And then who do we have here, Martha? It's quite a gallery.
This is Mary Wilson Belding, Milo Belding's mother, who is one of the 2 people that the library was given to the town in honor of. And her husband, Hiram, is right here. And he happens to be the cheeriest looking photo we have in the room.
We were joking that he is
Portrait,
the most joyful
Yes.
New England Victorian ever.
That's right.
No grim reapers here.
And over here is Milo himself, distinguished by that mustache.
Yes, heroic
Yes.
mustache.
Milo Belding, the silk manufacturer.
Great. This is really cool to get to see these.
Yeah.
And this is the community room here.
This is the community room down
This
here.
is open to
Really nice, daylight basement, open for use by any local resident for cultural, civic, and educational purposes.
nice little room.
Well, this is our newly emerging history room, local and regional history. We have had a wonderful volunteer helping us catalog our historical materials. And in the future, these are the materials that we hope to digitize, particularly our ephemeral material here. And then we have many copies of Ashfield Histories and Genealogy research. Our Historical Society is not open during the winter and is only open on Saturdays during the summer. So many of these materials are the only historical pieces that are available to access most of the time. And so we do have historical researchers and genealogists using some of these, which is really nice. We also, you can see where this is just our, again, our Ashfield histories that are for sale for $40.
I think it's the most handsome book I've seen in a long
It's
time.
lovely. And here is the copy of the Emancipation Proclamation that was given to the library last year during its centennial. And we actually eventually hope to have that in a more readable place this fall, but we were very happy to accept that.
Well, Martha, thanks for this tour, and thanks for your time, and thanks for this history of Ashfield. It's a very interesting town. I think our viewers are going to be thrilled to find out more about it.
Well, thank you, John, for your interest. I appreciate it.